Joe Root has stepped down as England captain. It is currently Good Friday, night time, 9 p.m. in New Zealand. It's early morning, Good Friday in England. And me and Rich have gone, mate, we've got to talk about this because we've been talking about it happening for a long period of time. There's been a domino effect through this England back room for a long time. And finally, the book has stopped with Joe Root and he's taken a decision to step down, Rich.
Wow is the first one, isn't it? Although we've been talking about it, when you actually hear it happening and the man comes out and says that this is it, here's the statement, it's still a shocker, isn't it? First time when you messaged me, I thought maybe it was just a rumour, somebody saying it, but it's actually official. We have a statement. He has stepped down as England captain, effective immediately. I think it is a real surprise, but at the same time, it doesn't come as a huge surprise to us. Not that we knew anything, obviously. We're not in the know of anything, are we here? It's the right decision. I think it is the right decision. We need to, before we talk about it, we need to have a look at it in two separate things. Is it the right decision for Joe Root as an individual to step down as captain? Yes. Do we have a ready-made captain, so therefore Joe Root should continue? Well, no, we don't have a ready-made captain, but he still should step down. You've got to split the two things off. You can't keep him in position just because there isn't an obvious candidate coming behind him. So that's what we'll look at that in a little bit right at the back end of this quick little emergency pod, won't we, Rob? But yeah, initial reactions. I am surprised he's done it, but I think it's absolutely the right decision.
It feels it's the right decision because it's the right thing to do, and it was probably going to happen anyway. Whoever's going to come in, and we just spoke about this before we came on air.
Good point.
Business top down. Someone comes in, they want their own people, they want their own way of doing things. Sometimes it's out with the old and in with the new, and it feels like it's the right decision before he's pushed, and which would taint. It's an interesting legacy because there's longevity to it, there's wins to it, but disappointments thrown into the mixer with a very average team. In fact, my brother's just tweeted us saying average captaining an average team, particularly with the batting, but a fantastic ambassador for the sport and a world-class player. And those two things,
brilliantly summed up.
Those three things at the back end after the average captain comment is still going to remain. It's still going to be an average batting unit, but he's a fantastic ambassador and still a world-class player and so important for this team going forward for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe Root's record as captain is sensational, really, isn't it? In many respects, especially when you consider his first spell. I don't want to call it spell because it was one session, but his first year or two weren't the best, personally, was they? There was the nonsense about, is he a 3, is he a 4, what does he want to do? Make a decision. But overall, he's got an exceptional record as captain. I think just touching back on the point your brothers just made, we spoke about it the other day, didn't we, when we was talking about Joe Root and the captain. Ram Prakash came out an article and said that Joe Root, the batsman, has been let down by Joe Root, the captain.
Yeah.
In his team. So it's such a complicated one. You can't unravel it completely. The performance is there when Joe Root's been captain, but the team, not going to blame it on Joe Root because he's been so badly let down by selection, by shambles behind the scenes with coaching, not just squad selections, but team selections. But at the same time, we can blame others from the outside and the nonsense that's been going on. Joe Root has a say in those things.
He does.
Not so much maybe squad, but he certainly does in team selections. And he certainly does in picking the bowlers for the place, for the games, for the facilities, etc. So it was one of those things, wasn't it? But we leave him. I mean, if you don't mind me jumping into it, Rob, 64 games as a captain, 64 tests out of his 117 that he's played, 5,295 runs out of his 9,889 in his career as captain, 27 wins as captain. Those three things, games, runs, wins, all records for England captains. When you think we had years of trying to find the right captains, yes, we had Nasser, we had Alistair Cook. Strauss did okay as well, I think.
Yeah,
pretty well.
Yeah, Strauss was good.
We've done so well, haven't we? And we did have some nonsense for a while, didn't we? No disrespect to players, but Flintoffs, Petersons, others around that sort of era as well were pretty embarrassing in results wise. He also has the most defeats as a captain, but that's what's going to happen when you've captained a side 64 times.
Yes.
If you keep the job that long in England, you're going to have a lot of defeats. It's just simple as that. That's the nature of cricket, isn't it? So yeah, I think his stats personally hold up pretty well, and having the most wins and having most loss as well. It just means he's done well.
It's interesting, right? Because at the start, it kind of started with this big boom of, oh, you know what? We've gone and beat South Africa. We're a decent team. We're going to be okay. They beat the West Indies. Things are going to be okay. They went and did it again in South Africa. In fact, they've got a fantastic record. They beat Sri Lanka. They drew the Ashes in 2019. There's been some really, really good moments. But what I find really strange, and it's almost like the worse this England team got as a unit, the better Joe Root, the batsman, became, because his overall record is exceptional. We said he averages 46 as skipper during this time. He averages 52 when he's not skipper, and that's okay. Most runs as an England captain, that's okay. Fifth most runs as a Test captain of all time, that's okay. But his record last year was amazing, and England was abysmal. One win in the last 17 tests, I think it was. But his record during those periods where they were winning games of cricket was actually relatively normal for Joe Root. There was a year where he averaged 37, a year where he averaged 42, where he wasn't carrying the whole sense of the team on his back the whole time. And it's almost like the harder it's got, the better he's done, but potentially the more it's taken out of him over that period of time as well.
Absolutely. And that's it. You can't keep going when things are so tough, can you? 1,708 runs in the calendar year of 2021, the most by an English player ever. It was just incredible. Like you said, the worse we got as a team, the better he got. And he just slung the team on his shoulders as a batsman and just kept plodding on, didn't he? Kept walking up that hill with the team on his shoulders. As a captain, undoubtedly, there are criticisms that are valid. He hasn't been a bad captain. Let's get something straight. He hasn't been a bad captain. He's been an okay captain. But he has some issues that mean that it is time. And captaincies have a use-by date, a finish, a throwaway date. You can't keep captain. It's the same as any leadership position. You can't keep that position for a ridiculously long period of time because your messages and how you deliver those messages, they're not going to change dramatically. So they will eventually fall on deaf ears. And you just wonder if maybe that's got to that point. I think Alistair Cook was talking about, wasn't it? You know, this ultra uplifting positivity of we're doing all right, everything's looking fine. West Indies tour, we played some exceptional cricket. Joe, listen, just relax a little bit. We weren't that good. We played some okay cricket in the West Indies, despite all the nonsense around it, the squad and the selection. Your message can be lost, can't it? So. Talking of messages, shall we read out these his statement?
Yeah, talk to us about what Joe Root's had to say, mate.
Okay, so settle yourselves in, get a cup of tea. I'll quickly read his statement. It's not that long, so it'll be all right. So Joe Root's just put, after returning from the Caribbean tour and having time to reflect, I have decided to step down as England men's Test captain. It's been the most challenging decision I have had to make in my career, but having discussed this with my family and those closest to me, I know the timing is right. Yeah. I am immensely proud to have captained my country and will look back on the past 5 years with enormous pride. It has been an honour to have done the job and to have been a custodian of what is the pinnacle of English cricket. I've loved leading my country, but recently it's hit home how much of a toll it has taken on me and the impact it has had on me away from the game. I want to take this opportunity to thank my family who have lived through it all with me and been incredible pillars of love and support throughout. All of the players, coaches and support staff that have helped me during my tenure. It's been a great privilege to have been with them on this journey. I would also like to thank all the England supporters for their unwavering support. We are lucky to have the best fans in the world, and wherever we play, that positivity is something we always cherish and admire, which is a huge drive for all of us out there. I'm excited to continue representing the Three Lions and producing performances that will enable the team to succeed. I look forward to helping the next captain, my teammates and coaches in whatever way I can. So we haven't said it yet, but most important takeaway for me out of all of that is that he is continuing. He's not stepping down from Test cricket. He's not prematurely retiring from the Test arena. He is going to be continuing. He's there for selection. With this England setup, God knows, Joe Root would probably drop Joe Root. If he could split Joe Root in two, Joe Root, the captain, would probably drop Joe Root. But yeah, it's great to see that he is going to continue and he will be a massive support, a huge pillar to prop this next England setup on.
It is. If you was ever going to read a stereotypical stand down statement, it probably sounds something like that, where something's happened. I've spoken to my family. It's the right decision to make. I'm looking forward to the future. Best wishes.
Yeah. I didn't realise it was taking such a toll on me until I sat down and my wife looked at me and went, Christ, you look dreadful.
Joe, you had a baby face when you started this job and you look 40 now, mate.
I'm Joe Root. Look, the captaincy.
It's
disguise.
It has been hard, mate. I think I wrote down the series where it's kind of fallen apart. Because remember, 2020 was COVID year, and that period was probably challenging enough. And in fact, the last probably 2 years of it has been challenges in an international cricketer, let alone an international captain and a new dad thrown into the mixer and all that sort of jazz. When they went to India, they started getting selection wonky. Then they played New Zealand and got selection wonky. They got run chases wonky, and that's the last time I'm going to say wonky in this statement. They played India again, and the better team is 2-1 up with one test match to play, which will be played this year. So you've not won the series yet, India, but you will be doing it under a new captaincy thrown into the mixer. But they didn't play consistently well during that period, and then we went into the Ashes debacle where selection was horrendously poor. Some of the batting was poor. Tactically, we were really inept during the Ashes. Ben Stokes bowling bouncer after bouncer on one knee and expecting him to bat in the top 5. Incredibly poor, selection poor, people playing in certain games poor. And then the West Indies, as soon as the ball moved, we were pretty poor once again. It's the right time. It's the right decision. And it has been the domino effect. Silverwood, Thorpe, Giles, all these people are going. It's a complete clean slate. We've had the Red Bull reset. The Red Bull reset has just got very real, Rich.
Yeah, and it has to, doesn't it? And like, you know, I use the example, we like the NFL, repping my team today. When you've got a new coach coming in, they want to go with a new quarterback. If it's a new GM coming in, they want to go with a new coach and quarterback, because if you tie it all together, then you're all linked together. But if you're being seen as a coach or something with a captain you don't feel like it's a proper representation of you. It's not your run at things, is it? It's not you molding that team into your image. It has to be. We need a director of cricket. Let's clarify. We need a coach. We now need a captain, and we need a vice captain. I think, you know, that's all the way through, isn't it? I think the kit man's all right. I think that, but we do also need to fill out that coaching staff. It's not just a coach. Graham Thorpe was there over the winter. He of cigar smoking indoors. You know better, Graham. That's not going to, you know, we need, I think he's taken a job with, is it Sri Lanka? I might be right in saying Sri Lanka.
Yeah, and Silverwood at Sri Lanka.
Oh, is it? Excellent. So good for them. So, you know, we need a full setup here. This is not going to take 5 minutes. I'm shocked we haven't got a director of cricket in place yet, because that has to be the first piece that falls, because then he has to be the person, or she has to be the person to make sure that they've got the right head coach that they can work with in the right structure. And that director of cricket has to set that structure before we even consider the captain. And that has to be a conversation between director of cricket, head coach, and senior players. They have to be involved in this. And I'm talking about Broad. I'm talking about Anderson. I'm talking about Stokes. And then I struggle to find the next senior player because we don't have any more senior players. Maybe Bairstow. Apologies. Bairstow as well is in that conversation. They are the senior players now. So, yeah, a lot to work through.
What's Root's legacy to you? Like, there's been a great Edmund Bayliss, who will be coming on the podcast with us in the next month to talk about some county cricket performances. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Red Ball website. I'll link it in the description below. He's made a great point. Like, what's Root's legacy as captain? And he's gone, don't we remember the players more than the captain? Like, Kohli, for all the fanfare he had, the 4th most amount of runs ever as a test captain, all the success he's had, he was just ousted one day and they've moved on to the next. Like,
that's what we've said, though. Captains are there for a finite period of time. They're not there forever. Joe Root is not the England player as a captain. Joe Root is Joe Root, the England Test player. Joe Root will be remembered as one of the finest, and he'll go on to cement this legacy as being one of the finest cricketers, Test cricketers that the country's ever produced. He's got plenty of left in him, hasn't he? And if you remove that captaincy, you get a new lease on life, or whatever the phrase is, if that's right. So the legacy for me is Joe Root is one of the greatest that's ever pulled on the 3 lines in English Test cricket. Joe Root, the captain, he was all right. He was okay. He was a decent captain. He did it for an extended period of time. His name is at the top of the charts now. Yeah. We will forget the minutiae, if you like, of the selection, the horses for courses, or getting the wrong horses for the wrong courses, team selection-wise. We'll forget a little bit about him trying to destroy his rival for the captaincy, Ben Stokes, by trying to bowl him into the ground time after time to see if we can just completely break him so he'll never play Test cricket again, Joe. I'm fine. I'm getting over this. I'm dealing with this. I feel better now that Joe's not choosing when to give Ben Stokes the ball.
Do you think he had control over Ben Stokes and said, sorry, Ben, you're not allowed to bowl now? Do you really think he had that control over Ben Stokes? Oh, come on.
They've come through together. So I think if it was the other way around, I think Ben Stokes was the experienced player and Joe Root was a younger captain, then yeah, I'd go with that. But Joe Root they've grown up together. we played in teams together, Rob, and we've had difficult players, let's say, who are maybe more senior or about the same age, and you can say no, enough's enough. They might, kick the grass. What's the grass done to you? And throw the jumper on the boundary, throw the cap and stuff. But it's like, okay, just let them go and let off steam. They can go and have a graze in the outfield for a while. So yeah, I don't think Stokes will have outvoted. No, I'm bowling. No, you're not, mate. Go and have a break. He could have said that at any time, but we've diverted, haven't we? So yeah, the captaincy, I think it's an okay legacy. I think he's done all right. It's going to be a while before somebody has captained more games for England than Joe Root, and it'll be a long while before someone has got more wins than Joe Root as captain. So I think his legacy is solid. But just as a captain, it'll improve with age.
I think Michael Vaughan put it quite well on this, actually, which
that's unusual.
Sometimes isn't things that come out of my mouth. But he gave it everything with very little support for the red ball team under his watch. Then he had to deal with COVID times. He still is and will one of the best role models and ambassadors for the game for many years, now being a senior player for many more seasons to come. I think the message is consistent throughout. Like, everyone's proud of who he is. They know how good he is. Like, he is head and shoulders above anyone else in red ball cricket. And you know what? If someone else is captain and Root keeps scoring runs, you'll forget that he was captain. A bit like, when did Alistair Cook stand down? You actually have to go and have a look to work out. It was 2017. And that's when Root took over. It's been that long. Some of the highs, Rich, I was thinking about this in Root's tenure. And a couple that come out. One, I think you've got to say accountability with the bat over the last 18-month period, which has been one of the worst for English cricket in the last 20 years, plus has been one of the best batting performances of all time. I'm not just talking of a few years or of a generation. I'm talking multi-generational good. People will talk about how good Joe Root was during this period for years to come. A bit like Viv Richards scoring all those runs back in the 80s. We're talking that sort of quality level and consistency thrown into the mixer. A couple of other ones, beating India 5-0 at home. I think it was 5-0 back in 2018.
I'm sure we'll be corrected if it wasn't.
I'm looking at it. India and England, 2018, 1st of August, England won 5-0. That makes the list for me. And 2019 Ashes series at home as well. Although it was 2-2, there were some special moments. Root played his part in that series pretty well. And as a test captain in England, to put up a good performance against a really good Australian team at home, when you're not that strong, I thought was pretty decent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just put context in how good Joe Root has been over the last year or so. When we talk about England's performance, we haven't won a test in the past 17. Sorry, we've won one test in the past 17 tests. The worst run since the ill-fated era of the 1980s that I grew up in the back end of, where we couldn't win for love nor money. So, that's the context we're dealing with. Joe Root, the exceptional cricketer, has been performing at exceptional world record levels whilst we've been having the worst run in 40 years.
Yeah. And you know what? That speaks volumes about how good Root's run was as captain before we started this, because his 42 win percentage is good. Andrew Strauss had 46 and he had better players. And Michael Vaughan had 50% and he had better players. So Root on 42 isn't that bad and actually sits above Alistair Cook's 40% win percentage. But you look at the start he had. South Africa, they reeled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 12 wins on the trot. They were brilliant. They were a really, really good team. And now they're not a good team. And it's not wholly, organically Root's fault. They are not a good team. He's just the head of the people on the field, and he's got to move on. Rich, if you were to say the lows of Root's tenure as skipper, what are you talking about?
I think it's recency. I think you look at the low, you have to say this last period of time, the Ashes, as we've just gone, I think that will be seen as the low. That will be pretty much the death knell. I'm surprised he held on to it for West Indies, to be honest. That might have been an opportunity if he was willing to actually sit down and go home and put his feet up and rest for a little bit and put somebody else in. We rested the two main seamers, didn't we? So Yeah, I think more recently, I think the Ashes for me, the shambles really from the start, from game one, picking the wrong bowlers for the wrong grounds, no Broad at the Gabba, and then it just carried on and on, didn't it? Leach being played in the wrong places. It just seemed that was wrong. It was all scrambled. Off the field was scrambled. Yes, it's COVID. It's a huge asterisk when we talk about any of this, but you still got to make the right decisions, or at least attempt to make the right decisions. And it didn't even seem like there was any logic behind the decisions. If there is some logic, you can at least go, okay, I can see why you did that. You don't have to be Nasser Hussain and Atherton and all the pundits and all the ex-captains to see and say, that doesn't seem right. Joe Root's made a mistake here. Yeah. We, as lay people, as cricketers, as club cricketers, could see that Joe Root was making mistakes. It's a difficult one. So I think, there has been lows over the period, over his time. Early on, obviously, he struggled a little bit as captain. But I think you've got to just say it's recency in it. And it's why he's gone. Forget about, just take away in your mind who there is to replace him. Just look at the last 12, 18 months as a captain. This is why he's had to step down.
Yeah, it is. The other one for me, and I'm going to correct myself, he didn't win all those games at the start. What I'm looking at is a column that keeps saying one of all the test matches he's been captain in, and the column next to it says who's won it. So they're not all England victories, so I'm going to take that one on the chin. But he did win his first two series, 7-0 against South Africa and West Indies combined, before the low, his time in Australia as captain. Lost 4-0 first time around in 2017-18 in a middle order that had James Vince, who may come into conversation in a minute. And then this one around where they were 1 wicket away from losing 5-0. So they go down. Also, comedic effect. He got hit in the balls in Australia, warming up, and then got hit in the balls batting and had to go to hospital, but continued to bat. Talk about putting your team on your back. He put his team in his box and continued to box, even though he was waddling down the pitch in agony batting. That is a leader.
That you should have spoke about it in the highs. Did you get it?
I should have.
Got hit in the box. Highs. No, all right, okay, it's just me.
It's big highs.
Just me. Yeah. I didn't crowbar my bad joke in earlier, does it? Because it's Easter. Joe Root stepped down on Good Friday. Is he going to be captain again on Monday?
I like it. I like the fact you've got it in there.
A little bit of Easter joke.
What next? So England have got more gaps than my teeth did when I was 4. So director of cricket, head coach, captain. Yep. Let's park the director of cricket.
I ain't got a clue.
Let's park the head coach, because they are conversations for another day of roles that need filling before this conversation takes place, but it's going on anyway. Next, England captain. And I'm going to pick people to start with that are not regulars in this England team that is being bandied around on social media. And I want to know your thoughts. So there's James Vince, who has not played for England for a long time, but played a little bit of one-day cricket. Looks good for 30 in Test cricket, 56 in first-class cricket. Rory Burns dropped twice, 3 times over the last few years, 30-odd Test matches, averages 30, not quite cut it up. And Sam Billings currently prioritising IPL over playing red ball cricket in England. Played 1 Test in Australia, was not picked for the West Indies. What are your thoughts on those kind of left field?
The other name I've just seen this morning as well is Butler as well, Josh Butler. So there's 4 names that I've seen out there, that are not currently in the England setup. And I think I need to say, first and foremost, and we spoke about this recently, didn't we? When we were talking about England Watch, talking about those players. If you're not in the England setup, why should you be captain? That's first and foremost. Who's going to step out? Joe Root hasn't stepped down from Test cricket, so there isn't a hole at number 3. So if you want to say, okay, no, we're going to bring in a batsman, a Vince, for example, we're going to bat him at 4. Okay, I can see your logic. But is Vince going to come into the team at 4, take all that history he's got as a batsman, forget it, perform as an England Test cricketer and captain the team? Now, that added responsibility might be just what James Vince needed. We've always thought of him as such a great cricketer. Yeah. He has got captaincy experience. Because this is one thing with this England side. We won't talk about names within this squad yet, but there is a lack of captains and a lack of experience of captains. We do accept that completely, and England have got to see that. So it does make sense to look outside. But Vince, okay, all right, if you're dropping Lawrence, I can see there's some logic there, but the problem's there. Burns, has he sorted his technique out? Has he gone back and gone, okay, I can keep scoring 1,000 runs in county cricket, but when I step into the Test arena, I get out in the same sort of way. I've got the same sort of deficiencies with my technique. So has he actually gone away after being dropped? And I'm still shocked that he was recalled at one point, wasn't he, for Hamid? That was just quite disgraceful. Regardless of what your thoughts on with whether Hamid should have been dropped, or not, scapegoat of the Ashes, basically. It's his fault. But has Burns gone away and gone, okay, I take it all on board. Instead of me being a middle-of-the-road Test cricketer that people forget in a few years, I'm going to just tweak a few things that people have been telling me I need to tweak, and I am then going to go and become the best England opener I could possibly be. I don't see that at the moment. I'm not aware of that. Yeah. If he has, okay, he's an option. Billings, no, he's played one Test.
Yeah.
One Test. And like we said the other day, and you've just mentioned, he's gone and played IPL. He should be playing as captain for Kent. He should be starting the summer in his white, playing county championship cricket, because the only person in front of him with the gloves at the minute is Ben Foakes. And Ben Foakes had a pretty ordinary winter, although Ben Foakes has come back and scored some runs, which is a great start for him in county cricket. Josh Buttler, again, no. He's gone to IPL. His time in the Test side has sadly finished. He never quite got to grips with how to play as a Test batsman, and he certainly doesn't have enough experience as a captain to warrant that for me over any of those others. I would rather have Vincent Burns than Buttler. As simple as that.
Okay.
But I would rather not.
We've ousted those options. So realistically,
well, what about you? What's your thoughts on those ones?
On those players?
Don't shy away. Come on.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Test cricket is. England are not a good team. Any team cannot carry someone just because they are captain in Test cricket. You will get found wanting time and time and time again. And those people are not Test match quality players at the moment. That might change in the future if they can build 20, 30 Test matches and go, oh, actually, this guy's a Test match cricketer. But you can't. It's just a straight up no from me. It's like it's like taking Steve Whitehall playing League Two football for Rochdale, scoring 12 goals a season, but he's a good leader. Let's stick him up front for Forest playing in the Premier League in '92 up front with Sheringham or something like that. I'm rolling back the years, but you just wouldn't do it. I think your options, Rich. One is Stokes. Two is Broad, who I think would make a great captain, FYI. Three, Bairstow. And the problem you've got when you're coming up with names is there's not that many regulars in this England team that hasn't been chopping and changing. And fourth, less field, is Chris Woakes, who's already probably got too much workload and shouldn't play for England away from home. So that's probably that conversation done. But Stokes, Broad, Bairstow, I think that's where you're looking. What do you think?
I think Stokes is the current vice captain, so he has to be the first man they consider. The question for Stokes is, does he want the job? We don't know that. I'd like to think he does. How will they manage him? I think we've looked at everything differently over the last few years with COVID. There is nothing to say that Stokes has to play every single Test match. Might seem a little bit bizarre, but get a good vice captain in there. We can still take out Ben Stokes occasionally. We can still give somebody else a 3-match series, for want of a better term, and try not to be too disrespectful, for one of the smaller nations when we go and tour over the winter. You can still give Stokes a bit of time off, as long as he maintains an input of the direction and the culture and everything in the team, because it has to be in his image, doesn't it? The leader has to create the culture. Head coach is going to have a say in that, but the captain in cricket has to be the one that delivers that, and we have to continue with that whilst the other person can bring a bit in. So Stokes, for me, yes, the concern is injuries. Yes, the concern is off the field stuff over the last few years. But if he feels like he's in a good place, if he feels like he has the support within the setup, then I think you don't look past Ben Stokes. I think he'd be a great captain. I think he'd bring the right amount of aggressiveness into the game. I don't think he'll be over aggressive and reckless. I think he'll be a right amount. He's matured from those younger days, hasn't he? When he was a little bit of a unknown quantity in many respects. So for me, you don't look past Stokes if he wants the job. Did you name anyone else? Was it just Stokes? You said Broad and Bairstow, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd agree with you with Stokes.
Yeah,
as long as the workload works for him and the want from Stokes to do it is there. My gut instinct is he's going to get the job, and you'll never know until what the future holds. I think Ben Stokes would just do anything to play for his country, play cricket, and be on the field. And if someone asks him to lead, he'll lead because he's a leader. Regardless whether he's got the bandwidth to take it all on with standing at slip, bowling, batting, and
it's a big ask.
Yeah, it is a big ask.
Just quickly on Stokes, mate. I just touch on one last point. With the injuries, one of the big things we spoke about, and I spoke about it already today, is hopefully he won't be having a captain. Stokes, the captain, won't be bowling Stokes, the bowler, into the ground.
Yeah, I remember what
he needs to understand that. Well, I mean, there's another argument there where Flintoff shouldn't have been given the captaincy, so that's another point. But that needs to be. We're talking about that environment that he's within and that support he's within. He needs to be given limits almost.
Yeah,
not hard and fast. You cannot bowl more than this amount of overs, but roughly, this is what we expect of you in a day. No more than that. You don't have to bowl at all, or Ben. But yeah, can I just quickly touch on Broad and Bairstow? Broad, I think if Stokes isn't ready for it, or Stokes just feels like now's not the right time, Stokes keeps the vice captaincy. Give Broad the captaincy. I would love it. Broad has experience, I believe, at times. He's been a vice captain of the England Test side, if I'm not mistaken, at periods of time. He's got that now, so he's got experience. He's got everything. He's going to back down the order, so it's not as important. When Broad's the captain, yourself as a captain when you're bowling, you have someone, or one or two people you trust that can make little tweaks in the field while you're concentrating your bowling. But you're not detached from the game when you're bowling. It's not like you go into a little tunnel. You can still see what's going on. You're in one of the best possible positions to make decisions because you're seeing the batsman and what he's doing better than anybody. So I've got no problem with Stuart Broad getting the captain. I think he'd be a fantastic captain, and he would understand, because of his age, it's a short-term position. It would be amazing. He would love it, and I think he'd do a really good job. Bairstow, just quickly, if neither of those people wanted it, then Bairstow is probably the next player in this team who is guaranteed a position after Stokes and Root. So possibly, but we're just getting him settled into one position.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a little bit too much for him? Will he want to take the gloves again? Will he want to take too much like he has done in the past?
Is he a leader? Is he a leader? And is he a captain? I don't know these things.
No. This is the problem. Not enough players, when they get into the England Test side, have had chance of captaining. They haven't captained the counties. I don't even know if they've captained age group, like under 19s or second teams or anything like that. We need to improve this. We need to change this. Young players need to be given opportunities to captain. Whether it's Royal London, whether it's T20, they have to be given the opportunity to captain their teams.
Yeah. Yep. 100% agree, mate. So I think we're on the Stokes train. Let us know below what you think. Who is going to be the next England captain, and what's Joe Root meant to you as an England supporter, or whoever you support? There's people that follow us from all around the world on the podcast. So what's he meant to you? Because I know he's held in really high regard overseas as well. I think we're going to see a quick transition now, Rich. I think we're going to see bang, bang. I think next week you're going to have director of cricket in place, and within several days you're going to have a new head coach, and within a week of that you're going to have a new England captain as well. So I think we're going to move pretty quick. We're getting towards May, which means we're getting towards New Zealand turning up in June and Test match cricket.
2nd of June, first Test match. So that's the deadline. We cannot... Yeah, we need to have all three positions done because it needs to be in the order we spoke about. Director of cricket first, head coach second, or pretty much at the same time as a package, and then the captain. It needs to be that quick.
If I was project managing this, I'd be having kittens at the moment with nothing in place.
Exactly, yeah.
I'd feel there's no control. So thank you so much for watching, guys. It's interesting getting to come and talk about something that's breaking news, but it's big news if you're an England cricket fan. The reset has officially... It's not started, but the reset button is firmly pressed now, and everyone's gone, and all the new is going to come in. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until next time.